Yes, hi. I am calling this number because I saw it on a bathroom wall. Seeing if you're Brandi.
Hello. You're listening to Brandi is Going to Hell, Quickies version. Long time coming. This is my intro episode. I'm going to be very straightforward, kind of give you the laydown about myself, about the show when it started years ago, the podcast I did before that, and kind of just go over everything about me so we can be friends and you can listen to other stuff and kind of have the context of it all. First and foremost, I wanted to thank my friend Gooch, who is an artist. He has a band called Gooch and the Motion, for kind of calling me every week for the past couple of months or texting me saying, hey, when are you doing your podcast? When are you doing your podcast? You have so many great things to say. I want to hear you say things, blah, blah, blah. And, he started doing a little podcast on anchor.fm and it was very inspiring because he just gets on there for a few minutes and talks about whatever he's feeling. And it was really the fire I needed lit under my ass. And I was kind of pussyfooting around with starting my podcast because, going to hell when it first started was something that I took very, very seriously with high production value and all that jazz. But then, I grew up and I got a job, and sometimes, you work really hard all day and you want to go home and sit on your couch and, have a social life and do it all over again tomorrow, or go home and work some more. So I haven't really given myself that creative outlet, and I think I've gone kind of mentally insane. If you know me already, I'm already kind of insane to begin with, but not being able to have an outlet was kind of is the icing on the cake. So thank you, Gooch, eternally for, letting that fire under my ass, to be completely honest. Also, what else was I going to say about that? And then seeing everybody around me start podcasts just got me super jealous because I started podcasting in maybe like 2012. What the fuck year is it now? 2019, like 7 years ago I started doing it, and it just brought so much joy. I did it with an ex. The podcast, obviously I had sex with him, but I did the podcast with an ex, and it was funny, and we got nominated for, a comedy award, and it was fun, and we were weird, and I, kept the legacy of doing radio at my radio station alive by, doing the podcast by myself after we broke up. And I didn't do the podcast at the radio station with him. I was saying that I named my podcast Going to Hell after an exec, the exec staff at 107.7 The Bronx, shouting out to my alma mater, was the exec staff show called, Going to Hell. It was funny. We were all, I read the news topless sometimes. It was fun. Those guys are still my best friends, even though they're spread across the country and lead such different lives and have children or taking care of grandparents or what have you. They're still my best friends in the world. And I still keep up with a lot of them and see them. But anyway, so I started Going to Hell, and I wanted to have a music focus and to be very upfront about talking about things and, life is uncomfortable. And I think in society, everybody has this like, ooh, you can't say that. And ooh, everybody feels the goddamn same thing. And it really irks the shit out of me that people have to put this censor over everything that everybody else feels, right? And obviously, you might not feel, somebody's going to feel something similar to what I say over the course of however many episodes I do, right? I did 30-something episodes with my ex for our show. I didn't do very many shows for Going to Hell because they were, hour and a half long shows, took a lot of production, but I maybe did like 13 or 15? I can't fucking remember. It's been maybe 2 years since I did a proper show for, my old podcast before rebranding it. Last April, I got my podcast logo redone. And, I just burped. You probably could figure that out because of the pause. I got my podcast logo redone in April, and it is fucking hot. I went and did a photo shoot with Celeste. I can't pronounce her last name. Giuliano, I'm not sure. And she's amazing. She does the best fucking pinup photography, I think, personally, in the country. She's amazing. She does pinups for pit bulls. She gets hired to do such cool projects. And my dream was one day to go into her studio and have her photograph me as a pinup. And I fucking made that dream come true. Now, the matter of it rolling out, we're approaching April again. It's February right now. But you know what? 2018 was fucking tough, and I'm not one to complain, or maybe I am one to complain, but 2018 fucking sucked. I started off the year January 6th or 3rd, I can't remember what day it was, my rabbit died, and, I had my rabbit nut for 7.5 years, and it fucking broke my heart. Like, that was my baby that I took care of for 7.5 years. She had congestive heart failure, maybe the last 2 years of her life. And I kept her alive every 12 hours. I had to give her medicine. And it was just something that, like, it was such a big responsibility. And I always made sure I was home to give her medicine. She always, like, was taken care of if I was away. And she just was my life, And, on top of, I'll get into, work in a minute, but she was my life, and she died. And, it just seemed like one thing after another happened in 2018 that, I couldn't control. And I think, everybody shouldn't walk around being mean to other people because you don't know what other people are going through, right? So my apartment got broken into. Sorry, Kiki, I didn't tell you that when I invited you to be my new roommate, but it did. Megan and I left the window unlocked on the fire escape. So sorry if this is how you find out about it. Love you. You're the best roommate ever. Kiki, woo! And, that fucking sucks. Like, somebody invade your privacy. There were some things taken. What else happened in 2018? I was in a new relationship. I just felt like I had this pressure of making somebody happy while not always keeping myself happy, because what makes me happy? Doing my podcast, right? But I started off the year depressed and, in a new relationship, trying to make it work. Working a lot, lots of hours. What the fuck else happened? My dad had a little bit of an episode/accident, which was pretty upsetting. I had to find a new roommate very quickly. Also, I went on vacation and got really sick because I drank the water in Mexico. So I was shitting for 2 weeks. And then I broke out in hives when I got, medicine for that. It was just like, it was just one shit show after another. And, trying to balance, like, the loneliness of an animal dying, finding a roommate, increasing credit card debt because of all the money I spent on my rabbit, loans going up, and, the pressure of, like, the family problem and apartment robbed, and just list everything all together is just so much for one person to kind of, like, deal with. And, sometimes, I had a personal trainer last year too. And he was just like, girl, I don't know how the fuck you can still function after all that shit happens. Most people go to a therapist. Well, I don't. I'm pretty hardcore, and I did once when an ex was an absolute fucking psycho, and I just needed reassurance that I wasn't. But I'd like to think that I'm a pretty strong person, which is why I'm here, because you know what? Maybe I should have talked through all those things. And if I talked through it all, maybe I wouldn't be so intense about everything right now or on edge. But anyway, I'm here now, bitches. And it's 2019, and I like numbers that end with odd numbers. So 2019, odd number, way better than 2018 already. It's the OCD kicking in, baby. So, a little bit about myself now that I'm done complaining about everything. I am Brandi Lukas. That's Brandi with an I, Lukas with a K. I grew up in the lovely southern New Jersey, in a little town called Woodbury Heights. My dad is a plumber for 30-something years. He just retired in September of 2018, so that was an upside to 2018. And then my mom is currently a lunch lady, and she has dabbled in a bunch of other things over, her lifespan. She was a stay-at-home mom when I was young, which is amazing, and that is one reason why I'll never probably ever have kids, because I would want to raise them, not some stranger. Anyway, I live in Jersey City. I have for 4 years. I've worked in New York for 4 years at a music management company. And I work for two masterminds of the rock and metal world. And it is something I am extremely grateful for. And I work around the most talented group of people. Yes, I'm kissing ass. But I do want to say that anything this podcast, like, nothing has to do with each other. This is me just being raw and real, and that's why I do it. But all joking aside, I really do work for the greatest and around the greatest people in the world, and I'm super, super excited to get this show back on the road. It just means so much to me, and I'm so rusty. I've said and about 80 million times, which is fine because I'm rusty. And I can't wait until I do my show full production, and this is going to be just kind of like little snippets. I'm going to try to keep the show under 15 minutes every time and really just go in deep and explore things with you. Thank you so much for listening if you made it this far. Something that I'm really, really passionate about is being outspoken, just because I used to do it so much when I was in college. And I think that I've kind of buttoned up my lips a little bit just because of the working world and other aspects of life that people want to silence you for. And I'll never forget. This is one thing about me too. I'll air my dirty laundry out like it's a mild spring day. And I used to do that on Facebook, just blurt it all out and talk about things that were fucked up in my life or wrong, or comment on things. And one time I posted about the shit relationship I was in, and a girl reached out to me privately and said, "Brandi, that post you made was the driving force for me leaving my partner who has abused me." And that moved me so much. I couldn't believe that, like, what I said helped somebody else. Even if it's raunchy or weird or wrong or anything that comes out of my mouth, someone's either offended or loves it. So I can't mask that. And hopefully this show, easing back into it, will inspire people or offend people. I love offending people. It's my favorite. Or it'll do something, I'm sure. So here's to getting through my intro. Brandi is going to hell. I'm super excited to take this journey with you, and I'm super excited to start interviewing artists again and talking about sex and talking about current events and other things that people can relate to, can't relate to, the whole 9 yards. I'm stoked to be back. Thank you so much, Gooch. Thanks to everybody else who has reached out to me and asked about when it's starting. Now is the answer, and it'll be short and sweet, but I'm excited for the long-term progress. You're listening to Brandi is Going to Hell. I'm excited to be back. You can follow me on all social media outlets at Brandi Lukas. That's Brandi with an I, Lukas with a K. And you can also check out my rants and other things on brandyisgoingtohell.com. Let's get crazy.